Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Sergio with the Rideshare Guy, and today I'm joined by Jeff from Florida. As you can see, his background with all the palm trees. Uh, he's not dealing with too much of inclement weather, obviously. But Jeff, how are you? How's it going?
I'm doing great. It's nice to be here.
Great to finally meet you. And I've done these positive articles on drivers over the last couple of months, and I follow up with interviews for our YouTube channel, obviously, and your turn has come up. So tell me a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, my name is Jeff. I have a background I worked in the chemical industry as a young person, and most of my success came in the restaurant business. I was a W 2 employee until the beginning of 2019, started Uber and Lyft, and Uber in 2015, Lyft in 2017 as a side hustle, which I believe that's what it's intended to be. Um, and I had a unique slant on it because let's just say one of my markets in Florida was Tampa. So twice a month, I drive 250 miles to Tampa. Well, I was in a company car with zero expenses. I put on my destination filter, and sometimes I pick up 7 or 8 rides driving to Tampa, 100% profit. And those were, like many like to call it, the good old days when you made 75% of the fare. So again, it was supplemental income. I did it as much as I can. I traveled a lot for work. I was out of the state 20 days a month. But when I was home, every penny I made went to um, things I wanted to accomplish in my life. And
Right.
I am not a negative rideshare driver. I know Uber and Lyft are horrible companies, predatory companies, exploitive companies, but I always remove roadblocks. And that would enable me to retire from the W 2 community at 55 years old and devote most of my life to my wife, children, and grandson.
That's amazing. So obviously, we all discuss this. There is good parts of the gig world or gig economy, and there's bad parts. And is everything perfect in it? Obviously not. And we get to talk about it every Tuesday on Show Me the Money, which you comment quite a bit, and I've gotten to know you through your comments. But one other thing that you had sent me, which I based one of my latest articles on, is 10 don'ts as do nots for rideshare drivers, which I thought was potentially the Bible of rideshare, to be honest with you, just for the fact that, your take on it was, for me anyway, as a veteran rideshare driver, could be applied to newbies as well as veterans with a lot of scar tissue that they carry due through the fare cuts that they have faced. Everybody reminisces about the good old days, but there is not much we can do about those days, right? These companies have diametrically opposite opinion of how they're going to make money, which is charge as much as they can and pay as little as they can. But when you sent me those dozen points, I thought this is something that everybody needs to read, which we put out, and it's gotten great traction. So if you don't mind, let's go through those don'ts as you suggested, point for point, right? So the first one
Sure.
being, the floor is yours. Go right through them. Give us a couple of minutes of your voice when it comes to this great advice, actually, to all rideshare drivers.
So my first point, and these have just been a list that I've added to over the years of ride sharing, and it's also about how I live my life. And a lot of things cross over and transmit from one part of your life to another. The first one, and perhaps the most important, is for me, the two rules of ride sharing are simple. Uber and Lyft will only do what benefits Uber and Lyft. That's the first rule. The second rule is see rule number one. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And for me, as a retired businessman, knowing this, I actually give them credit for being upfront about this because knowing this, you can formulate your plan and keep changing it to make profit while they put every roadblock in front of you. That's possible. And that's just the way I always, and I put it in a lot of my comments. I comment on some other channels. And that's my feeling of the rideshare business over the last almost 8 years now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, like we both agree on that, they're a business, they have to look out for themselves, and you're a business, you have to look out for yourself. And the freedom you have to be part of their game is all up to you. I mean, they're not forcing you to do this, right? But then there is a right way of doing it and there's a wrong way of doing it. So let's get to point number 2 that's in the article.
So number 2 is pretty simple and might require a little explanation. Don't worry about what you can't control. Focus on the things you can control. Meaning you have a limited amount of time. Time is one resource in your life you never get back. When a second's gone, it's gone forever.
Yep.
Don't worry about things you may have influence over but can't control. So, and that's always worked for me. So I can't control if Uber or Lyft charge a passenger $250 and pay me $60. What I can control in that respect is, does that $60 make me a profit? Make me a profit based on my business plan that is successful for me. That's the first part. Then when that person gets into my car, for me, the bigger the gap between what they pay us and what they charge the passenger, the easier it is to convert a driver to a private client. And I know, like, I have $1 million umbrella policy on my auto insurance because I know how litigious people can be. I don't do it a lot. And I tend to do it with people I know that, I drive, and most importantly, most of them will reach out to you.
Yeah, I mean,
Because,
it's about knowing, reading the room, right? I mean, you're not going to willy-nilly do this, but
correct.
you're also, you read the room first, you get the vibes, and then, you offer your services going forward with full protection, obviously, because as you correctly stated, I mean, live in a litigious society, and everybody's looking to jump on another for one reason or another. But I think that's also great advice, that you're looking at this as a business decision as opposed to anything else. That, look, we read in the comments all the time. Everybody complains, right? Well, complaining is not going to get you anywhere. I mean, yeah, you cannot control what these companies are going to do. And that's what you talked to me about previously, circle of influence and circle of control. We do have certain amount of influence, obviously, as at the Rideshare Guy, but, can we change things? Hopefully so. And it seems like you've joined our cause, which we're glad about. And that let's just go talk a little bit about your point number 3.
So point number 3 is, don't live in the past. We will never make what we did 7 years ago. Those days are gone. Good is not the enemy of great, which is another beauty that a mentor gave me. So a great ride in 2014 might have made you $12 in profit. A good ride today will make you $8 in profit. That $8 shouldn't be the enemy of the $12 ride. It is what it is. Again, we can't control what Uber does. We can't. As much as I like all the points I hear about, cherry picking and stuff like that, you and I both know, for every one driver that leaves, there's 20 more that are going to sign on. And I'm sorry, I'm not denigrating anybody because I am a driver myself, but if Uber and Lyft are your only source of income, you have to examine decisions you've made in life that have put you in this position where you have to rely on ride sharing as your sole source of income because the margins aren't there. I mean, Sergio, come on, you're a finance guy. With all the money they're taking from us now, they still can't turn a profit.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about the rideshare business?
That's a horrible business.
I mean, isn't that true? I'm not
True.
revitalizing the wheel here. I don't know a lot about finance. I will defer to you. I just look at everything from a common sense based approach. And again, if they're charging someone $250 and they're paying me $60 and they still can't turn a profit, now they're publicly held now. They're not private like they were before. So they have a responsibility to their shareholders, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
And they're still not turning a profit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, show me the money. They have to show them the money, and they're doing everything in their power, which is bad for the drivers, right? And it's been, I mean, the trend has not been a driver's friend over the last 6, 7, 8 years when it comes to fares. We know that. And as a two-sided marketplace, they have to charge as much as possible and pay as little as possible. That's simple. It's not rocket science, right?
Look, we had our day when a lot of the blue states lifted their restrictions in the middle of 2021. We were making buckets of
Yeah.
money because the drivers were in short supply and the demand was through the roof.
Yeah.
Again, as a businessman, that's when you save your nuts if you're a squirrel, right?
Yeah.
For the winter time when you're hibernating.
Yeah.
So we can't just all spend. There are good times and there are bad times. They're in a very advantageous position now, and they don't make any bones about it. You talk to them. I don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
So, and it's only going to get worse for drivers, I think, because with inflation and a pending recession, more people are going to have to look for supplemental income.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So,
I agree. But, let's jump to your point number 4, which I think is, all these points, by the way, for the viewers who are going to watch this later on, obviously, you guys all should listen to this man, okay? And I mean, look, I don't put or interview people, on a whim on our channel. It's not like there is a background check or anything like that, but these are all great advice, not just for business, not just for rideshare, but for life, right? So here's an experienced businessman who's, working with what he's given. And instead of, complaining, he's making lemonade out of lemons. And that's what you have to do as a rideshare driver, as a gig worker these days, okay? And maybe times will change, things will get better. But until then, listen to the man. So what's your point number 4?
So just before point number 4, real quick, I want everybody to know that I feel the same exact way all of you do. But my approach is just different.
Yeah.
I can't control what they do. I can only control my business. So I'm not going to waste 1 second trying to change Uber and Lyft.
Yeah.
And so don't take this the wrong way. I'm not. Everyone has their own plan and their own reasons for what they do.
Yeah.
All right. So number 4 is don't forget to know your expenses to the penny. That's the only way to measure profit. And to me, this is plain and simple. I hear all the time that we talk about dollars per hour.
Yeah.
When you own your own business, you don't work on dollars per hour. You work on profit and loss.
Yep.
I don't care if it turns out that I make $9 an hour. If 8 of that is profit and that's my goal, that's fine. Now, again, that's just me. So the first thing you do is you can't measure profits without knowing your expenses.
Yep.
You have a spreadsheet I sent you. It's rudimentary. Okay. There are things missing, but that's my spreadsheet. So if you still have, if you're supporting yourself as your sole source of income doing Uber and Lyft, then you'd have to add in a mortgage. You'd have to add in a rent. And that would make your cost per mile go up, right? But for me, my costs are 27 cents a mile. So even in these paltry times where I'm struggling to get 90 cents to $1 an hour, that's 4 times operating expenses. Right. Any business would take that.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the key, right? Because, we mention this quite often, that if you don't know your cost, like, we have a saying, as you know, on the show, I went to a softer version now by just saying just decline, right? Is, the people ask me, like, Sergio, what is that? I go, well, if you don't know your cost, you're never going to get there. I know my cost. Jeff knows his cost. That's why he can decide on the whim in 10 seconds that he has to make a decision, a business decision, nonetheless, if this is a profitable trip for him or not. Profits is the mother's milk of all companies and corporations. It doesn't matter. It could be a rideshare driver to a Fortune 500 company. Profits are never to be shied away from. Now, your profit level may not be same as mine or Jeff's, but you have to know your cost in order to get there. So that's like probably the most important thing that I can say to all drivers, as far as know your cost so you can make a decision in 10 seconds or less if what's offered to you is profitable. So
and it's not only about the ride, Sergio. It's if you know your cost and you're losing money, then maybe rideshare isn't the supplemental income you should be looking for.
Absolutely.
Right?
And then that's where, that's where the dilemma comes in, right? Because there's 2 million, 3 million drivers. how many of them do what we're trying to preach, right? Which to me, obviously, as Uber and Lyft and DoorDash, whoever they are, all the gig companies, they're not going to sit there and educate you about this, right? Because it's opposed to what they're trying to do, right? So to me,
Correct.
education is probably on both sides, by the way, not just like you mentioned on the passenger side is important as well as the driver's side. And I think, that's why we're having success on our channels because we're trying to educate. I mean, our reach may not be 2 million people, obviously, and it's not, but one at a time, is the way we're going to go at it. And the other thing that's going to do is actually beneficial to these companies, right? Just for the fact that they may stick around more instead of quitting every 6 to 8 months, and then they have to spend billion more dollars to get more drivers on board, right? So to me, education is key in anything you look at. So let's talk about your point number 5.
So point number 5 has some subsets. So it's don't forget to have a business plan. Know your cost per mile. What are your living expenses? What's the minimum dollar per mile you're willing to accept to cover all of the above? Decline garbage. Don't accept rides below what you establish as a minimum dollar per mile unless you're headed somewhere on a destination trip or you're going that way anyway. So my point, and again, I always get pushback when I comment about this. If I take a ride that takes me 70 miles from my house and then I set my destination filter back for my home, if I ride back empty, I'm paying all the cost. So I don't care if they send me a ride that's 50 cents a mile. If it's headed towards my destination, I'm cutting down my cost and increasing my profit. Again, my philosophy. I'm not telling anyone you have to follow me, but that is just the way I feel. So in addition, the other sub point is what is the number of rides per day, per week, per month that you need to reach your goals? Most important in this topic is know your area. Go to the hot spots before they're hot to take advantage of surge or ride bonuses.
I agree.
I live in a tourist part of the country. I know when all the events are. Today starts spring break for the rest of the country. This is March Mayhem in South Florida, not March Madness.
Yeah.
I will probably make, if I drive a lot, $2,000 to $3,000 a week without fail, historically, because all the college kids are here and they come in stages.
Yeah.
The Midwest starts now, Michigan and Detroit. This weekend, I say every day is a Saturday in the month of March in South Florida.
Yeah. Well, so as you know, we interviewed the CEOs of both companies, right? And they both said the same thing, and people laugh at it when I say that. I go, they go, treat this as your small business, right? And a lot of drivers, unfortunately, don't. They go, I'm just a rideshare driver. I'm doing it, part-time anyway. I'm driving 5 hours here, 5 hours there. It doesn't matter how many hours you're driving. Treat it as your business. The CEO of the company of a $70 billion global empire is telling you to do this. And on this one, I agree with the CEOs. Treat it like your business, as opposed to just without a plan, without thinking of what you're doing out there. Just get out, accept every trip that is profitable or not profitable to you. So on this one, I think we have to agree with the CEO. So let's get to your point number 6.
6 is don't get frustrated when Uber and Lyft change the playing field. Yep. Modify your business plan to stay a step ahead of them.
Yep.
Use the game changer for me. Lyft was always secondary to me, but a few months ago, they introduced stay in area feature.
Yeah.
And you always yell at me about this, and I take it because I respect you. And I don't mean yell, but aunt Formica, I get it. I'm a proud aunt. I'm proud Formica, but I'm profiting. So for me, stay in area under the pay structure they have now, and I hope you agree. Shorter trips bring higher dollar per mile. There's no question about it. Yeah. So for me, I only look at dollars per mile and dollars per mile that they offer me on a ride.
Yeah.
Because I am platinum with Lyft, I get 4 stay-in areas a day, 3 hours each. In essence, if I was a full-time driver, that's a whole shift.
Yeah.
I always set my radius for 5 miles from my house, and I don't care how many trips I have to take. If they're $1 a mile, 95 cents a mile or more, I'm taking them. And by the way, for all people out here who are worried about surge, and I think they're called ride bonuses on Lyft.
Yeah.
A $2 ride bonus over a 5 mile ride inherently affects your dollars per mile more than a $2 ride bonus on a 40-mile ride.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Think
But
about
by the
that.
way, I don't. I took a page of your playbook this week, right? So Lyft had offered me 25 trips for $400 guarantee, right? So I used both of my area filters on Monday, and I used both of my area filters on Tuesday, right before the show, right? In a day and a quarter, I finished the 25 trips without, just like you said, I took your advice. I set it to 6 miles instead of 5 in my neighborhood because behind me is all mountains. So there's nothing there. So basically, I'm just playing for half that circle. And I finished it and I took their money, right? And that's all right. I say these things, the Formica word here and there, but I was Formica for a day and a quarter. There you go. That's exactly your point though, right? When they zig, you zag. Whatever they offer you, there's an antidote for it, right?
Because you have a business plan and
Yeah.
you know how much you want to make per mile. And I know a lot of drivers don't like to think about this. Everything goes into your tips per mile.
Yeah.
The ride bonuses, streak bonuses, tips, anything. Pharmacy, which, I won that contest and I've been selling some of that stuff.
Good.
And this comes up in another point, so I won't elaborate on it now. So,
yeah.
But no, I agree with you. And I don't do long rides anymore. I always used to be at the airport.
Yeah.
But every long ride is 50 to 60 cents a mile. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I agree. So let's get to your point number 7.
Okay, so this is something probably outside the box for a lot of people. Don't take reservations if you can avoid it. They're not worth it. Lyft, you're paid the same price as a regular ride. You waste more time than not trying to be in the area at a specific time, which causes you downtime and higher expenses. You're also not eligible for any ride bonuses that may be in that area at the time of the reservation. So to me, I will only schedule Lyft rides if I'm on a ride challenge or a streak. And I will look for the $3 to $4 rides because they're going to pay good dollars per mile. And a lot of times you can schedule them sequentially. So you don't have any downtime. But again, I'm going to use what they give me to my advantage.
Yeah.
Period.
100%.
As far as Uber goes in Florida, and again, by the way, I'm only speaking to my market because I know Uber is different in every city.
Yeah.
Uber charges a $25 booking fee.
Yeah.
Which means you get a higher dollar per mile.
Yeah.
The only downside is you have to be online 40 minutes prior. They always say they'll put a directional filter on, but I don't think I've ever gotten a ride.
Yeah, it does.
Before I've ever gotten it, Now, the good part about that is most people, when you arrive early, will be ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Exactly. So, but again, you have to weigh it out and see what works for you.
Yeah. So
Uber reservations. And
no,
this is important.
I think those are the best trips actually to do the reservations. And a lot of people don't do it. And I'm like, you don't do it. Those are the highest paying trips. So,
right.
But so we have like 5 minutes left. So give me your
last point in this one, which I think is important. Uber reservations are a great way to build a private client base.
Yeah.
Because there is a huge difference between what they're paying and what you earn. So in your conversations with the passengers, I think you want to talk to them about that.
I agree.
All right, so number 8, and I'm going to tell you that this goes back to what you talk about is what the CEOs say. And I can't stress this enough. Don't take out your frustrations with Uber and Lyft on the passenger.
I agree.
Once they're in your car, they're a customer in your business.
Yeah.
Before that, they're an Uber and Lyft customer.
Yeah.
Any tip you make only increases your dollars per mile. Yep. Educate the passenger. Let them know just how predatory and exploitive Uber and Lyft are. Most are unaware of just how little you're paid and what they pay. Yeah. Invest in your business. Keep water, gum, mint, sanitizer, wipes, Lysol, vacuum, a steamer, and cleaning supplies. Great service can lead to increased frequency of tips and add revenue.
Yeah. I mean, again, spoken like a businessman, right? And rideshare is your business. I cannot emphasize this enough. It's not public service. It's not charity. It's a business. Run it like a business, as opposed to just, being part of a 2 million, 3 million drivers who most of the time they do it wrong and they don't treat it like a business. So, and your last point that is actually goes back to the control point, right? And I think you should talk about that for a couple of minutes before we just finish this.
Would that be number 12? Because I know you
whatever you want to, I'll give you the floor for 2 minutes, and then you can summarize whatever you think, whatever the best advice you can offer to our viewers.
Well, I guess the last point, and perhaps this is the way I live my life, I will never be called a victim. I don't know if this is what you were alluding to.
Yeah, I am
think
exactly alluding to that. Yeah.
Don't blame others. Your success or failure in life is in your hands and only in your hands. You will never be rich doing rideshare. Keep in mind, they don't withhold taxes. They don't contribute to Social Security. If this is your only source of income, you need to know that.
Yeah.
You will make profit if you have a plan, stick to the plan, modify the plan when necessary, and provide a great experience. Diversify, apply to many apps, and choose the rides deliveries that are best for reaching your goals in your business plan. Stay positive, have fun.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do. And
I think, coming from a veteran, these are words of wisdom, but also words of how you should run your life. Okay. It's just not about rideshare. Jeff is not only about rideshare. He's working with what he's given. And again, he's making lemonade out of lemons. And it's not that hard. It's really not that hard to do. And you all should be able to do it in your own cities. Granted, all cities are different, but these are great words of advice. So I'll give you another minute to just, in general, sum everything up for us, right? And whatever, I know you're retired now. I know you were a businessman, very successful one. Just give us a minute of closing of the best advice you can come up with out of your heart. Forget the script, forget the 10, 12 points of don'ts. Just give me a minute of fatherly, brotherly advice.
I would say you're a businessman, and any business you run, you will only get out of it what you put into it. Okay. So if you bought a restaurant and you owned it and you just opened the door and let the employees in and went home and then came back at the end of the day, don't expect to make money. So you have to invest in your business, and investment doesn't only mean money. Invest in things that will make customers have a great experience. You want them to remember you. Forget Uber and Lyft. Uber and Lyft gives us the technology to do what you want to do. For me, at this point in my life, after traveling so much of my life and missing my older daughter grow up, the flexibility and working when I want to and spending time with my children, my wife, who also sacrificed a lot, right? That's more important. I'm never going to be a millionaire, ever. But here's the only stress I have now. Do I want to take the Florida Turnpike or I-95? Coming from a career where at times I had 2,000 people reporting to me, either directly or indirectly, and the C-suite people breathing down my neck.
Yeah.
Okay. Stress takes a lot out of you.
Yeah.
Okay. There are a lot of positive things that we can look at. Don't watch television. Don't believe all the negativity. Judge for yourself.
Yeah.
That's the only advice I can give you. And be happy. And again, I know I'm very vocal on some channels and it stirs a lot of controversy. I've been blocked from a few. I just don't like when people don't tell the truth. If I had a voice, and you know me, it took a lot for me to even do this with you because I'm a very private person.
I have convincing powers, but
because I believe in you and I believe in your cause, and that's worth.
I couldn't have a better look. I couldn't have a better friend, better mentor when it came to certain things that you instilled in me already in the short period of time that I've known you. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it, and hopefully this is not the last time you show your face.
I'm available for you anytime, and next year I am committed to coming to Curbivore. I'll get to California.
There you go. There you go.
I'd like to shake your hand.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks for the invite. See you Tuesday.